What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Sex Mechanic Podcast. I am your host, the Sex Mechanic, aka Jensen Benoit, aka Mr. Born to Explore, aka Confident Creator, aka I Did It My Way. My voice kind of went off when I said I did it my way. Mr. I Did It My Way. I want to make sure y'all heard that. And you're back for another episode. Today we are talking about feelings. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention for you people that are joining for the first time, this is a podcast about sex, dating, and situationships and my experiences around those particular topics. I have quite a bit of them. So I try to share it with people and I try to take the perspective of being accountable and, oh, hold on. Okay. Had to correct that real quick. Had to turn on my recorder. Yeah, I try to take the perspective of being accountable for my actions and trying to figure out how I could have done things differently or better. And hopefully that helps other people out in the process. So today we are talking about being in your feelings. And in my case, in my feelings, to be more specific. This is a topic that really just came about maybe earlier this year, late last year, earlier this year, that really even got me to thinking about writing about this and in this case talking about it. So if I go into detail, what I mean by me saying in my feelings is this past year, I mean, has been a rough year for a lot of people. I know I'm not the only one. A lot of people struggled with issues within their relationships with others, within, just the amount of time that they spent with themselves, not being able to be around family, friends, and people that they cared about. This past year, 2020, really did a lot in terms of challenging us mentally and emotionally. And I'm no different, even though I probably thought I was. I thought I was impervious to, you know, emotional. I wouldn't say emotional breakdowns because I don't think I had an emotional breakdown necessarily, but I definitely had some situations where I was more emotional than usual. And I'm not necessarily referring to crying because I'm not really much for crying, but I can still get pretty emotional even if I'm not crying. Excuse me. So here's the thing, right? Like growing up, I've I've prided myself on being somebody who can go through experiences and just kind of like move past certain experiences. All right. So if something happens to me, if somebody does something to me, for example, let's use the example of rejection from somebody of the opposite sex, right? Say I'm trying to get with somebody and they reject me. I'll feel a certain way. I have the same emotions as everybody else, but I remember feeling like I could just kind of shed that off, what I'm saying? I could kind of like give it a stiff arm and just move on pretty quickly and easily from that situation. But over the past few years, it's been different. Like I've really felt like things kind of linger a little bit more. And that's kind of what I want to get into is the few areas that I've discovered about myself that have really just started to come out more and more, especially in the past 6 months to a year. So one of those areas is feeling like I'm more emotional, right? Again, I'm not big for crying, so I don't really cry, but I have moments where I need to write things down in my journal and I need to express my feelings because I'll be feeling some kind of way. And using that, rejection example, if that happened in a certain way, maybe last year or this year, I actually will get into that. We'll get into that further because I have a good story for y'all that encompasses all of this stuff that I kind of learned about myself. And this experience was one of those things that helped me discover a lot of these things. A lot of these things that I thought I had gotten past, these are things that I dealt with in my 20s, but apparently they weren't done with me, even though I was done with them. So one of those is being more emotional. I don't know if that's me getting older. I know as people get older, they tend to be more in their feelings and more in their emotions. But if it is, I'm not feeling it. I mean, I know it's a necessary part of growth, but I'm still not feeling it. I don't like it. So the second thing that I've discovered, right, is that rejection, depending on how it's done, can be something that I don't deal with well. And when I say I don't deal with it well, I don't mean that I express, negativity towards the person that, is rejecting me, or how some people, they'll go out their way to let you know that you hurt them by, cussing you out or saying craziness. Now, for me, it's the opposite. I actually internalize it, and I start to wonder whether, like I'm enough, or whether I'm doing enough, to, I guess, to impress somebody else, to convince somebody else, persuade somebody else that they'd want to be with me, or get involved with me in whatever way. And obviously, that's an ego thing. Most of these things I'm talking about today is ego, by the way. So if you caught my last week's episode, I deal with ego as well. And even though I'd like to think that, most of the time I'm beating my ego and I have a winning record against it, sometimes I'm proven wrong. And sometimes the ego gets the best of me. And it's a battle. It's an ongoing battle. So, it's I don't want you to think that my ego no longer exists. It does. It's just something that I have to continuously try to keep in check. Yeah, I know I got my tea again today. So yeah, rejection, depending on how it's done. If it's done by deceit, or by the person being kind of dismissive, man, it does something to me, like, and not good. Like, I definitely don't respond well to that type of rejection. And that's something that I kind of had to learn about myself, you know, this year, really. The third thing is, I used to think that it wasn't important the way people saw me, right? Or like if somebody, had me misrepresented, I wouldn't really care that much if it wasn't somebody that I had like a strong relationship with. Like if it's somebody I didn't care about, or somebody I didn't really have a really tight connection with, it just be like, whatever, you could think whatever you want, and I'll move on with my life, just like you need to do the same with yours. However, more recently, I feel like it's been more important for me to show who I am, and for people to actually see that. And again, it's something I didn't care about as much before, but it just all of a sudden it turned into something that, I didn't want to be misrepresented in people's eyes. And again, ego, because who cares? It, ultimately, it should be who cares. All right. But for whatever reason, it started to get to me. And all these are also emotional things too, that I've just gotten more in tune with my emotions. I think this is what it was, right? When I was younger, I was able to figuratively store, bad situations or negative situations in different places, right? I'd store them in this closet here, I'd store it in the attic, store it in the garage, wherever there was space, I was putting that stuff away. And I think something happened over the past couple of years where I just didn't have any more places to, put those negative experiences. Like I had no more space. I had no more room. And so now I'm forced to deal with these things head on when they happen. Like there is no putting them away and dealing with them later. I got to deal with them now. So ultimately, I think that's what's happened over the last 2 years and the last year in particular. And so, yeah, as much as I'd like to run away from them, I can't. I got to deal with them now head on, which of course is a good thing. But, if you're not ready to deal with them, then it can be a negative thing as well. It can be negative before it gets positive. Let's just say that. All right. So those are the things that all came out. And they came out when I decided that I was going to engage in, trying to get with somebody or try to talk to somebody in person for the first time in like over a year and a half, probably. Like there was a girl that lived next door. And yeah, again, I want to say all of this stuff came out. These were things that I thought I was either past already, I had worked through already, or I didn't even know they existed. But they definitely came out during this situation. So I know this situation was necessary for my growth, and I'm appreciative of it. So there was this girl next door. I'd see her walking by pretty often, and I'd even talk to her a couple of times from my patio, and but it was nothing really, very small conversation, short conversation, but that's the length of it. Now, one mistake I made is I didn't follow my instincts, right? I think I know I already mentioned this in my first episode that I haven't had sexual intercourse and now I'm at a year and a half, actually. It's June, right? Yeah. So like a year and a half. At the time, it was about a year, just over a year. So I wasn't necessarily thinking with all sensibility and logic. And I'll have another episode about, thinking with the wrong head. But that's kind of what was happening. Like I was lusting. I was sexually attracted, but there was nothing beyond that. All right. It was just sexual attraction and I was horny. So, but I convinced myself that, maybe we could be cool and this, that, and the other too. So to fast forward, I told myself, all right, the next time I see her walk by, I'll try to catch her outside and meet up with her and, get her number or whatever. So that time came. I went out there. It was kind of a weird exchange for me. The whole thing felt weird from the beginning. And that was my first sign that, maybe this isn't the way I wanted to go. But of course, I wasn't thinking with that. I was thinking with something else. So I just kind of ignored that and just kept it moving because, I didn't want to not go after something I wanted, right? Even though I probably shouldn't have. I should have left it alone. So the interaction was weird because like she had already gotten in her car and I was kind of like, hey, like her window was up. I was like, hey, can I talk to you? Whatever. And it was just a strange situation. And even I felt some kind of way about it as it was happening. And also afterwards, I was like, that's not the way I would want. Nah, it's not. It wasn't a good look for me. I don't know how other people would see it. Maybe other people might see it kind of creepy or whatever. I looked at it as that shit was kind of creepy. So, and I know I'm not a creep, but I'm thinking about how it probably came off, right? So, okay. I got her information. She gave me her number. And when I was putting the number in, I was like, this isn't a local like number. Like, this is a weird, area code. Like, what number is this? And she told me it was like an Arizona number and it was a long story, but whatever. And I felt some kind of way about that, but I was like, I put the number in, what I'm saying? Take it. I told her I'll shoot her a text and let her, get my information. So I shot her a text. She didn't respond immediately. And I remember this was another red flag for me, not like a red flag or anything on anything she did. This was I'm constantly in a space where I am reflecting, self-reflecting on who I am, what I'm about, what's happening with me, how do I feel emotionally, that kind of stuff. Like I'm checking in with myself a lot. And I could feel myself getting frustrated because I didn't get a response right back. And then I immediately, being the overanalyzer that I am, that I also thought I got over in terms of overanalyzing when it comes to uh, dating, the overanalyzer that I am started thinking about, oh, this is probably a wrong number. I shouldn't have even approached because the whole situation was like wrong and, just wasn't my style. Um, and I started to really get frustrated. I was like, oh man, why? She should have just told me she wasn't interested. Like she didn't have to give me the wrong number. Like I remember just feeling like really upset, kind of upset at her, but more upset at myself. Like I shouldn't have did that. And I didn't listen to my instincts. I went against my better judgment. And all of that stuff just kind of came into my mind, right? And I think maybe like 10 or 15 minutes passed, and then she actually responded. And then I felt dumb again because I was like, oh, okay. So all of that was for nothing. Even though I still felt, this is the thing, right? When all right. If you're somebody who has a good connection with your, what I like to call inner self, or your inner God, or your intuition, whatever you want to call it, when you have a good connection with that, make sure you follow that and listen to that. Because when you go against it, you can feel it. It feels different. It feels odd. It feels weird. And you'll find out later, why you should have went with it. You will eventually find out. But it's nice to just kind of follow it in the beginning and not have to deal with the aftermath, right? All right. So fast forward, we have a conversation over the phone at some point, a decent conversation. But even after the conversation, I was like, yeah, I don't think she's really that interested. But me being an optimist, and also me being, again, horny. Like, ladies, like, let me give y'all some insight if you don't know. When a dude is horny, like, he does not think the same. His mind operates on a different level. Like his mind operates from a totally different space. And we're not always the most logical, the most sensible. And we do and say things that we wouldn't normally say and do. And we act in a way that we don't normally act. So that's something that, is good for women to be aware of. And it's something that guys, it's good for us to be aware of as well, because then we can kind of check ourselves and check our behavior when we know we're doing too much. And I was definitely doing too much. So kept the thing going. We would text each other still. And this is when I also realized, no, this is not when. I realized this like last year. Another thing that came up for me, not just during this situation, but also last year. I really don't deal with people ignoring my texts as well. I don't. It's just the truth. I should feel some kind of way about saying that, but for whatever reason, like when I text somebody I care about, again, this is for people that actually matter to me. When I text them and they don't text me back, or they take hours at a time to text me back, or hours to text me back, man, it just really makes me lose like trust and also faith that the person's dependable. Like if I gotta wait hours to hear back from you when I contact you, then that means I can't contact you when something's like really, really wrong. I have to wait until it's not a serious issue. And this has happened with a couple people as well that have made me just say kind of like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Then cool. But I know what category to put those people in when that's the case. Like you're not in the category of dependability. You're in the category of somebody who, okay, we cool. That's it. But and I know I should feel some kind of way about it, but I don't. Like it's what it is, So we kept going back and forth with texts or whatever. It was around New Year's, so I invited her over. She's right next door. I invited her over if she wanted to come chill for New Year's Eve. While I had my bubbly, We could just chill, talk, whatever. She said she didn't feel comfortable. It was too early. But she said, "Oh, I got some comments too." So I'm not ignoring your comments. I'm just gonna kind of let the story keep going, and then I'll bring these up. But I'll show a few. Okay, so I see some emojis, some faces. Not responding to text calls until days later. That's a bad look. Again, dependability. It's not even because like I don't trust what the person is doing or anything. It's a bad look. All right, bad look. Thank you for the comment, for the comments with an S. And so that came up for me as well because she was taking a while to respond to comments. And in her case, she worked nights and slept during the day. Fine. Everything was telling me during this time period that the girl wasn't interested. All right. She wasn't interested. And this is, I don't know if any of y'all saw that movie. He's not that into you. I don't know if it was he's not that into you or she's not that into you. But whatever that movie was, when you know, especially when you've been in and around, people, of the like women especially. I know the vibe. I know the vibe when a woman ain't feeling me. But for whatever reason, I know what reason is because I was thinking with the other head, like I said, I was persistent. And in my mind, I was saying, no, it's cool. Like, give her a chance, show her more of me. And that's another thing. I know I'm not the only one guilty of this, right? I was going to drink my tea, but I feel like I got to say this. We do this thing, right? Where if we feel like somebody is not interested, some of us, not all of us, some of us will go even further to show people or try to prove to them that they should like us. Like, you should fuck with me. Like, I got a lot to offer. I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. And I'm not talking about, physical things necessarily like money or anything else. I'm saying showing character traits or attributes that, are are looked up or looked to in high regard. So you keep trying to show this person that, I am worthy, I guess, in a sense. And again, these are things that I have not dealt with in years. Like, this shit was taking me back to like dating in the 20s when I used to do that. Like, I used to try to like prove who I was. And these are some of the things that came back. And so fast forward, the relationship pretty much became like, I accepted at some point. I don't remember when it was, maybe a couple weeks in, that okay, this girl really isn't interested. I don't remember what it was, but maybe a string of things. It was just like, all right, bruh, you know better. You know that she's not trying to, fuck with you on that level. And so I accepted that. And when I accepted that, I was okay. Like, it took me maybe when I came to that realization and it's like really said, all right, this is what it is. I was disappointed. I'm not gonna act like I wasn't. But again, I think that's mostly because I was trying to get it. Like, I had been seeing this girl for a long time. Like, since I had moved into this new place, I had been seeing this girl passing by, frequently. And I finally, approached her after 7, 8 months. So, there was a lot of readiness. Like, I wanted something to come out of that. Thank you, DNS 556. I appreciate that you like my channel. I will continue trying to put out the best content as possible for everyone to enjoy and everyone to get the most out of it. So yeah, there was a lot of, just built up, you know, desire, we'll call it. Right. And I think the desire was mostly sexual, but still, um, it was there. So I was disappointed, but after about a day, I was like, all right, it is what it is, and that's fine. I'm not gonna, act weird. I'll let her reach out to me if she wants to reach out to me, but I'm not gonna, pursue it as something that it's not, right? Okay, fine. So we we move into that space where we're just cool. And she was moving at the time as well. She was moving within like 2 weeks or whatever at that time. And so I had a bunch of boxes here that I didn't need and actually that I wanted to get rid of because my place was super crowded and just had more things in here that I needed. And so it was kind of a good situation for me to be able to get rid of some boxes. So I offered her a bunch of boxes and we just kind of became like, uh I'm not gonna say box trading buddies, but that's kind of what I called it, right? So I would like, have some boxes, break them down, and just give them to her next door. So think this is where things get interesting, right? Things got interesting when at one point, and I like to be accurate, right? I keep the receipts because I like to get the real, the actual. I don't want to give y'all paraphrasing. I want to give y'all the exact situation that happened. Okay, so oh, that's spam. Okay, I kept these on purpose. Usually I would get rid of these conversations, but I kept this conversation on purpose because I had to make sure I wasn't tripping. I had to. I had to because people will fuck around and make you think you're crazy if uh if you don't keep receipts. So yeah. Yes, not responding to text calls is a telltale sign that I'm not interested. Hey, I'm with you. And you know what? I'm a little different. Like I won't ignore. I know how it feels to be ignored and how I feel when people ignore me. So I won't ignore people. However, oh man, however, I mean, I might not mention that I'm not interested, but I can't just not answer though. Ooh, that's rough. But I get it. Everybody does their thing in a different way, right? Like, yeah, that's kind of wild. Uh wow. This is different. Okay, so all right, so we get to the point where we're trading boxes or whatever, right? I'm giving her boxes that I don't need. She's, putting her stuff together and getting ready to move. And so I make a comment, right? Now, this was kind of petty of me, but at the same time, it wasn't meant in a way that was, negative or malicious or, trying to hurt feelings or anything. Like it was just really me making an observation. The petty side is also something that came up that I thought I was over, but my ego was my ego was having a time around these 2 weeks. Like it was just running rampant. Like last week I was talking about getting your ego in check and making sure it doesn't take over. The reason why I know all that shit is because I've had experiences where I've allowed it to take over, and the ego be running wild, man. Wild. So I made a comment, right? Let me give you the comment that I made. So we finished talking about some boxes or some shit. And I say, side note, it's a shame we didn't hit it off beyond box swapping. LOL. I think we would have vibed well, but it be like that sometimes with a smiley face, right? Now, I put the face because I didn't want anybody to think I was upset or angry because I wasn't. I wasn't being passive aggressive. At that time, I had already accepted the fact that we weren't going to be anything past that. But it was the pettiness in me that was like, I got to let her know that I know, though. So she responds, LOL, maybe it would be different if I wasn't moving. Now, I could let this shit go. I could have just been like, yeah, maybe you're right. But at this point, the ego stepped in again and he was like, no, I got this. I'll respond. And The face makes it oh, I gotta put this out for the people. The face makes it seem passive aggressive. Okay, fair enough. And again, too, I talked about it with, um with 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 my sister in particular, and she knows me better than most people. Her and, my ex know me probably the most in this world. So I understand that everybody doesn't know me right off the bat. So yeah, that was that. So maybe it did seem passive aggressive, but it wasn't. So I could have let this go. I could have just been like, all right, you know, maybe it would have been different. Um I put who knows, you know, in hands like this, like who knows? Because in all honesty, the moving is a good excuse, but it could have been the moving. It could have been the moving along with a bunch of other stuff going on. She has a new chapter in her life that she's going through. Like she's about to move to a different city and start all over pretty much. I get all of that. Um, so I just said, who knows? Like, hey, maybe you're right, maybe not. Right. And then she says, you seem like you're upset about it. Dot 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 question mark. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. All right. I wasn't upset before. But when somebody tries to make me seem like I'm something that I'm not, then I get upset. And I got upset. I was I could feel myself like first I was just like, oh no, I'm not upset. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. And I actually wrote that. I was like, no, I'm not upset. Before I started getting upset, I said, no, I'm not upset. A little disappointed, but I truly believe things happen how they're supposed to. So I'm not tripping. Right? Maybe again, sounded like I was bullshitting or lying or trying to convince myself, right? But I wasn't. I really was feeling okay about it. Um, but then she doesn't respond. That's what takes me over the edge, right? I was controlled. I was cool until that point. Until didn't get a response like 30 minutes. Then 30 minutes turned into like an hour and a half, turned into like 2 hours, and no response. So what it looked like was that she had already made a she had formed an opinion about however that conversation went, and she made a decision that I was upset about it when I wasn't. And man, when I tell you I was whew, I don't usually let people get me out of my comfort space like that. But luckily too, she didn't see me getting upset. I don't think I would have been able to display it the same way in front of her. But I was hot. And that had me emotional, upset, incensed for like the next 3, 4 days. That had me fucked up. And then I started going into like, oh, well, what is it that I said or did wrong that made her feel like I was this, that, or the other? That whole worthiness thing I was telling you about starts to come in there. I start to get upset at her as well in different points. Like who the hell you think you are saying that I'm upset when I'm not upset and trying to, misrepresent me to be something that I'm not and somebody I'm not. And it was like an ongoing back and forth for a few days, me and myself trying to figure this shit out. All while at the same time I had a bunch of other stuff going on in life, like broken car, broken phone, broken apartment, broken condo, rather, not broken apartment. But it was a lot. And so, like I said, it really took me back to when I was in my 20s and I used to deal with issues in a different way. And I didn't really deal with issues. I just kind of, I sat in it for a little bit and then I just kind of like moved on. But there was no moving on from this. I literally had to start writing in my journal every day and writing my feelings out. And not only writing my feelings out, but writing out accountability and writing out things that I noticed about myself, things that I did, patterns that I repeated, things that I could have done differently, not in a way that says that I did anything wrong, but in a way that says that maybe I didn't show myself in the best light that I could show myself. Not necessarily in this situation. I don't feel that bad about this situation and how it happened because I truly do believe everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. And from the beginning, the universe and everything else was telling me that this ain't the way to go. But I was determined to learn this lesson. I was so determined to learn this lesson the way I learned it. And I did. Those days of dealing with it was like, yo, I dealt with it. I definitely I dove into my emotions and I really got a feel for what it was. I just got a feel for patterns of ways that I felt based on how somebody else saw me and all kind of other stuff. Being me perfectly, which is my cousin, says, what's upsetting me about this story is how she fails to acknowledge that she only began responding to your messages once you started helping her move. Um, kind of. This is the thing. This is where I didn't like where she came from. I appreciate that comment, by the way. I didn't like where she came from because she's one of those people who I guess was being nice about not being interested. I don't like that shit. I'm gonna be real with y'all. All right. Like like I said earlier, like I don't like deceit or dismissal, right? But I'm also not a fan of like people just being like really nice about shit and not saying how they really feel. Cause I put it out there that, you know what I'm saying, like I'm attracted and I'd like to see where this goes. Obviously, she's moving in weeks. We're not going to end up being together, like, you know, in a long term situation. If you're not interested in anything else either, just let me know. Just say it. That's the part that bothered me. I don't like when people kind of leave it open ended. Maybe it's because they're trying to figure it out as well, but you know when you know. Come on now. Ladies, guys, all of y'all know when y'all know. Like if you're not really feeling that person, you know that pretty early on. So the whole like, you know, just kind of we're cool, which is fine because I didn't do anything that I wasn't comfortable doing. The boxes was fine. I didn't help her move, by the way. I literally just gave her boxes. I want to be clear on that. The people I've helped move, I don't regret helping them move. If I would have helped her move, I would have probably regretted that. So I didn't overextend myself for sure. I just did the boxes and that was it. All right. But yeah, that was the only thing. Like the whole being nice thing is like, eh. Mrs. McComb says, I feel that type of honesty comes with true maturity. I appreciate that. I'm trying to mature, you know, like I'm in the process of being who I'm on my way to being, just like everybody else. I just happen to be doing mine as I talk about it on a platform in front of people. So y'all could maybe see the growth and experience some of the growth with me. Another comment says, keep in mind, rejecting someone isn't only hard for the rejected. You're right. It's not. That's very true because I'll say this right now. I apologize to all the women who I haven't been totally direct and straightforward with in terms of my lack of interest. All right. Because as I'm saying that, I don't like the person that isn't straight up about not being interested. I got to, you know, be real with myself too and know that I've done that as well. And I'm wrong for that. Like it's been easier in some instances to not mention that or to just kind of like let things taper off as opposed to being, you know, a grown adult and not being scared to be to feel a little guilty about not being interested in somebody and telling them that straight up. But the ignore, oh, that shit stings on another level. Ooh, But it stings too because I feel like the person knows what they're doing. So like if a person in this case, when she stopped texting, she probably stopped texting thinking like, um, oh, this dude is tripping or he's whatever. So this is where it ends. But in my mind, I'm like, nah, but you tripping. Like you calling me upset and I'm not even upset. So which one of us is really tripping? I don't know. But that was an experience I felt like I had to go through. And I'm glad I went through it. And it was just another lesson of, listening to your instincts and following what you know to be true and genuine as opposed to following things that maybe satisfy other desires. Yeah. But I want to hear from some of y'all. Like, what are some of the things that in dating are just kind of like those? I'm not gonna say deal breakers, but some of those things that just kind of take you over the top. Like, I guess pet peeves. The ignoring thing is more of a pet peeve for me, more than just a pet peeve for me. It's more of like I I can't fuck with you on the same level if you do that. Like I could still be cool with somebody, but again, I'll put you in this category as opposed to this category. The category of people that I could, maybe chill with on a fun level, but not on like a serious level because I can't trust you all the way. So what are some of yours? I want to hear from the people that are watching and listening. What are some things that you just can't deal with if somebody does them? And let's not forget, the road to 1,000 subscribers begins now. All right. You all who are in here can do something about that. If you haven't already subscribed, if you haven't liked, if you haven't shared, then why don't you go ahead and do that? If you enjoy the content, of course. I would never ask you to do that if you don't. But if you do, you need to be subscribed. And other people need to know that you're subscribed. And other people need to know about this channel. I'm at 425. So all I need is another, let's see my math, 575 for me to get to 1,000. Y'all can help me on that. So share this with somebody who you feel like needs to hear it, and somebody who can maybe benefit from it. And in the meantime, we will continue on. There was something too, like a lesson that I felt like I needed to learn in there. Or not a lesson I needed to learn, but a lesson I learned. The lesson I think I learned was not to, uh, and this is something again, I thought I learned this already. I could have sworn I had this shit down, but I didn't. But the lesson was, one of them was not to beat myself up if somebody's not interested. Like if it's not a match, it's not a match. And that's okay. And I tell people this all the time, like people I give advice to. I'm like, don't worry about what other people are thinking about you. Like, you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, and just the type of person you are. So I should have taken that advice as well. But I think being out of, I don't want to say out of the dating game because I had dated online, starting late last year. But I think being kind of out of practice with just like interacting with people face to face and that whole thing just kind of changed things, and it made it a little bit more challenging. And I kind of reverted back to some old habits, I guess. But yeah, don't feel like you're not worthy because somebody's not interested. It's just not a match. That's it. Like that's all it really is. And that could be because of where that person is. It could be because of where you are. Whatever the case it is, if it's not a match, then it's not a match. And you wouldn't want to engage in a situation with somebody if it's not a match, because that's going to end up coming out later on anyway, how much of a mismatch that is. And as you can see, it can come out in a way where, people end up not feeling great. So just see that in the beginning. If it's not, don't force it. Do not force it, because it's not worth it at the end to force it. Mhm. Come on, y'all. I'm waiting for you. I want to hear some of you guys' pet peeves, some of the things that kind of bother you. Let me hear what you got. Okay. I cannot deal with someone not giving me the choice to choose. For instance, a guy dating other women, but having me believe we're exclusive. Ooh. Yeah, not being honest and straight up about stuff. That's a big one. It's actually one for me too. I've said this in other episodes and in this one as well. Thank you for the comment, because um deceit. I just can't do deceit. Like, if you're gonna be sneaky, if you're gonna be hiding behind the truth, if I'm gonna be asking you questions and you not be honest and genuine and sincere with the answers, I can't fuck with you. And that's not even just on a romantic tip. Like, if somebody lies too many times or doesn't tell me the truth too many times when I ask them, even in like a friendship, oh, I start to feel a way about you. After the first time, I start to feel a way about you. If it happens a second time, then I know it's something that's more of like a part of your personality as opposed to a one-off type of situation. And that, I wouldn't say is a red flag all the time, but it definitely puts me on notice. I'm not somebody that can forget. I'm somebody who I can forgive pretty easily, but I do not forget. Nope. Like, if you've done something, then I remember that you did it. If you apologize, I'll forgive you for it. But that doesn't change that you've done it. They can't. You can't take back what you've done. Same thing with me. If I apologize, only thing I could expect is an apology or an acceptance of that apology in return. But I don't expect you to forget what happened. It's not, I don't know. It just doesn't make that much sense. Just because you're remorseful for something and just because you did something by mistake doesn't mean that that thing can't happen again. It can, of course, happen again. Especially if it's a habit that you're used to doing. It's going to take some time before that just, stops happening altogether. So, yeah, I think that's a good one. Not giving me the choice to choose. Mm. Yeah, but like I said, all these things were, I gave y'all a lot. I gave y'all at least 5 or 6 different issues that I've dealt with as a young man and I thought I was done dealing with, but they just crept back in. They weren't taken care of fully. But I'm happy and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to really take a hard look at me and what I can do differently and what I can do better. How I can, kind of put myself in a better situation, protect myself better as well. Because it's not all about what I could have done for another person. It's more about what I could do for myself to put myself in a better position. So yeah, it was good. It was bad before it was good, but it turned out great actually. Like I said, I keep a journal and that journal has really helped me. And I've been more consistent in that journal than I've ever been. So, and thank you also to the people who I was able to talk to around that time when things were kind of rough. Like I said, not just around that, but just in life in general. And I had a lot of questions about different things. And there were people who, had my back and who looked out. So I appreciate for all of y'all if y'all are watching. I know some people are watching, but maybe not all. And yeah, I think that's going to conclude today's episode. This weekend, I have a special guest, good friend of mine, and I'm going to be doing an episode on Saturday evening. All right. So it's going to be 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, but it's going to be on Saturday night. And yeah, me and him are going to get into some stuff. Like, we really going to talk about some stuff. This is my boy from a long time, from 2 decades long. And we're going to have a great time. So, oh, one more comment. Mrs. McComb says, although I'm done with the dating scene, one thing that was a deal breaker was a man that was not masculine. Oh, well, okay, we were going to end, but I feel like I want to ask more questions though. What, in your opinion, makes a man not masculine? But while I'm waiting on that, remember, tune in on Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We are going to talk about some stuff, some good stuff too. I'm excited about it. Miss McComb, what you got for me? What do you consider to be a unmasculine trait, I guess? She says, although it differs for many, for me, it was having a backbone and able to make decisions. Okay, I respect that. So for you, masculinity, one of the ways masculinity shows itself is through assertiveness and being able to lead or take charge, and also being able to stand up for yourself and possibly for others as well, but mostly for himself is what I'm hearing. Okay. I mean, I respect it. I feel like those are, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like those are important traits to have um, as a man or woman, like to be honest. But I see why you would want that in a partner for sure. Because that can definitely pose some issues if those things are not there. Like that could be, yeah, that could have some real detrimental effects in your relationship if the person you're with doesn't have a backbone or if they have issues taking charge. But thank you for that, Mrs. McComb. I appreciate it. So I am going to close out. I love y'all. Thank y'all for watching another episode. And again, tune in on Saturday. Special guest. It's his birthday. So we're going to show him some love on Saturday. All right. So this was episode number 7. Hope to see y'all next time. Peace.